upload it, then share the file. Okay, right. I think you all can see the slides even, no problem. This is the session number 4, conceptual framework project. As per the post outline, the title is conceptual framework project. So when you look at your course outline, there are basically three areas: overview of conceptual framework of financial reporting and conceptual framework of financial reporting as accounting theory, and importance and the limitation of the conceptual framework. So we will be discussing these areas uh, in our lecture. We are just discussing what is the conceptual framework and it's a theory, and also the importance and uh, limitation. Okay. All right. Uh, can anyone just tell me so far what we have just discussed in this subject? Any idea? Anything you want to share with me? Anyone can? Okay. This is the fourth subject. I think last time you talk about the harmonization. Previously, you talk about harmonization and the international accounting or something. I think I can. I saw your discussions. Today, what we are going to do is we will be discussing the conceptual framework of financial reporting. Uh, Before discussing the conceptual framework, I thought of I will be what do you call this? Just tell me that this is recording. Yes. Okay. First of all, I think this is a starting of normative theories. Uh, do you know the meaning of normative theories? So we will be discussing the conceptual framework as a normative theory. Normative theory means normative theory always talk about what should be, what should be. So thereby, always normative theories are prescribing what should be. For example, very simple example, what is the double entry system? So double entry system is a normative theory. It talks about which transact, when you take a transactions, which account to be debited and which account to be credited. So debit credit story is a kind of normative theory. When you take, I think you have studied many standards since you are in the final year. So there you learn many standards, and each and every standards really prescribe you, really advise you what to do. So though all those standards coming under normative. Now similarly, you might learn different concepts under different subjects. Maybe you learn balance scorecard, maybe standard costing, maybe budgeting, maybe research method, proposal writing. All these are really, uh, we label these as all these normative statements or normative theories. So normative means always we prescribe what to do. We are just giving directions for the behavior. So all these are normative. But you know that when you take those directions, but reality, the practical scenario may be different what is directed. For example, simply you know that double entry system, when you debit one account, you have to credit another account. I'm taking a simple example. So if you do this in manually, in certain situations, you may put two entries in one side. Then ultimately, when you prepare the TB, you will get to know that trial balance is out because you have recorded 2-3 transactions not according to double entry system. So what I want to communicate to you by taking this example, when human behavior interact with these normative theories, the implementation is not as what is being prescribed. You got my point? Always the prescriptions or the prescriptions are differ or different from what is being practiced. The reason is that all these normative instructions or normative theories really being implemented by human being. There are human involved, so we can't expect smooth way of operationalizing, smooth way of implementing the normative theories. So thereby, very simply, if you computerize your double entry system, what happens? If you computerize your double entry system, the possibility of getting errors are minimized. Why? Because you have reduced human involvement. So thereby, if you want you to really implement normative theories as it is, best thing is to digitalize. Then of course you can. But again, the problem is even normative theories, how the IT developers, software developers understood the particular normative theory. If they understood as it is, they can develop it. So thereby, if you ensure that, okay, the particular system is perfect, it is lined with the normative theory, then of course, you can expect what is being prescribed. So what I want to communicate to you is that two things. One is normative theory. Normative theory really prescribe what has to be, what should be done, direction, prescriptions. And when really comes to implementing stages and when people involved, we can't expect normative theories being operationalized or implemented as it is. So thereby there is a gap. When this gap is there, the researchers, as researchers, there is a issue to be addressed. So thereby you can link this particular idea to your research project also. So that's what I just want to highlight here, the normative theory, meaning of normative theory. It is prescribed, but when you take normative theories again for specific events, specific cases, you may have different prescriptions. Classic example is accounting standards. We have a conceptual framework, general guidelines, general framework for financial statements, and also based on these frameworks we have developed different accounting standards. Maybe for LKS 1, LKS 2 example, inventory, maybe property, plant, equipment, maybe financial instruments, maybe impairment. All those are prescriptions, normative theories, normative guidelines for specific transactions, specific events, right? Having understood this particular background, so we'll move on to the directly to the conceptual framework. So what I will do is first, this conceptual framework, of course, when you go back history may conceptual framework, the concept, you can even go back to 1961, but the conceptual framework, a document, such a document initially started in 1989. Then that documents improved 2010. The latest one is 2018, updated one. So what I will do is, basically the existing standards, all the existing standards are based on 2010 conceptual framework, and 2018 conceptual framework really effect from this January, last year, January 2020. So thereby what we will do is, we will be discussing the conceptual framework, the latest one. First of all, you get different chapters, but they talk about different areas. First one is objective of financial reporting. I'm not going to discuss in details these things, you are familiar. Uh, to provide financial information that is useful to users in making decisions related to provide resources to the entity. The important point is, it provides financial information, financial reporting. It provides information and useful to users. So the crucial word is useful to users, making decisions to provide in resources to the entity. Now, this particular reporting, you are taking decisions in relation to providing resources to the entity. You have to remember that, providing resources. So thereby users, we are focusing here, those who are providing resources to the entity. Those who are providing resources to the entity will be focused on this financial reporting, or they are the user groups, they are the primary users. Then what are the users' decisions? Of course, there are, as per the conceptual framework, there are three types of decisions. In certain cases, you may take a decision to buy shares, buy debt instruments, sell shares, sell instruments, or to hold without wait and see principle. So you may take decisions either to keep or sell or to hold your investment. So thereby equity and debt, equity and debt instruments. So those debt and equity providers we call capital providers. One word for equity and debt instrument, label is capital providers. So if they have any investments, whether to sell your shares, whether to buy additional debt instrument, maybe debentures, whatever, so you will use the financial information given in the financial reporting or the financial statements. Other one is providing or settling loans and other forms of credit, maybe short-term credit, maybe bank overdraft, other form of credit, different from LC facilities, providing and settling loans and other forms of credit facilities also will be focused on. And also finally, voting otherwise influencing management's action. So thereby, when you want to express your voting power, when you use your voting power, when a crucial decision, when you are going to take a crucial decision, maybe takeover decision, maybe some other, financial policy decision. So maybe appointing or removing directors, maybe appointing new auditors. So whatever, if there is a voting, you may use financial information, have they performed well, just to continue with these director boards. If they perform well, yes, we will vote for the existing director boards, something like that. So anyway, there are three decisions, either to keep or to settle, or give other forms of credit facilities, as I explained, and also management, influencing decisions or the actions. Example, voting using your voting power. Then the next one, we will continue the financial reporting objectives. To make decision, users what they are going to assess. Now, for example, earlier I told you that there are three decisions. Now, when you are going to take these three decisions, available information in financial statement should be assessed. So, what we are going to assess? Two things: prospects of future net cash flows to the entity. So your financial statement should facilitate for you to predict, for you to forecast, for you to think about future net inflows, net cash inflows. That means net cash flow. The second one is management stewardship of the entity's economic resources. What is the stewardship? Stewardship means the responsibility of management using the given resources in an efficient and effective way. There are resources. Board of directors will have the resources, which is belongs to the shareholders and the other investors. So this set of resources, how they have managed. So whether they have managed, whether they have used those resources to get the maximum benefit, or whether they have used these resources, misuse these resources. If these resources are really misused, then the stewardship of management is questionable. If you satisfy that the management has really performed, they have done well, then of course we call it stewardship is good. So thereby, what I want to communicate is that by referring, by analyzing, by evaluating, by looking at financial statements, you should be in a position to, predict prospects for future cash flows, and also to ensure the stewardship of the management. That is the two areas we are going to assess: future cash flows and also stewardship. The next one is, to make assessments, we need different type of informations. Basically, there are two important informations for you to assess the future cash flows and the stewardship. The first one is entity's economic resources and claims against the entity and changes in those resources and claims. Resources means assets, claims means liability and equity. So you should look at the financial position basically, and also you should study how those financial position, resources and claims change over the period. Assets increase, assets decrease, liability increase, liability decrease, cash flow. If you go to the cash flow statement, cash flow increase, cash flow decrease from different sources. So that's what you basically assess. So you need that kind of resources, that kind of information: economic resources, claims, and changes in those resources and claims. And secondly, how efficiently, effectively management has discharged its responsibilities, use the entity's economic resources. Whether the, if auditors report, by looking at the auditors report, you may, you can get an idea. The different committees are there. You can look at those committees example reports. Anyway, by looking at different financial ratios, even you can look at whether they have used the resources in a efficient, effective way and has ensured the effectiveness. So basically, you have to focus on these three areas. What are the areas? Users' decisions, assess what criteria, what areas you are looking at, and to evaluate those areas, what kind of information you need. So those are objectives of financial reporting. Then to achieve these objectives, what are the qualitative characteristics? of useful financial information. Now you have to remember, we are talking about not just financial information. There is an adjective. We talk about useful. The useful depends on relevance and faithful representation. There are two factors which influence the usefulness or the useful financial information: relevance and faithful representation. And also we consider these two qualitative characteristics are fundamental qualitative characteristics. These two are fundamental: relevance and faithful. So we will be discussing briefly what those are. Relevance, relevance is always it has the power of when always we talk about the relevance with regard the information here. If the information is having the power or capacity, or if they are capable of making a difference to the decision made by users, we call it relevance. That means if information is contributing, if information is helpful you to take a valid decision, so it's relevance. Financial information is capable of making a difference in decisions if it has predictive value and confirmatory value. Two important things: predictive value and confirmatory value. Confirmatory value. If it has predictive value means by looking at the asset, you should be in a position to predict the future. And when you predict the future, future is uncertain. So thereby, the same information you should have the confirmatory. That means degree of certainty, the confirming your predictions. If your predictions are confirming, of course, those informations are relevant. Now, tomorrow, so it's raining. So you predict by using maybe your experience, by using certain information, your science knowledge, by based on different methods, you may predict. But if it not confirmed, your information is not useful. So thereby, financial information should have two values. One is predictive value and other one is confirmatory value. Faithful representations. Information must faithful represent the substance of what it purports to represent. What is important is substance. When you look at the faithful representation, what is important is substance. What is a substance? Substance means that what is important is not the legal form. What is important is the reality. That's why we are encouraging lease assets to be recognized as right of use assets, all the lease assets as per the new standards. Substance. That's why we encourage, when you prepare the consolidated financial statements, even you don't have the legal entity, if entity you control, even a partnership, even a sole proprietorship, even a single project, if parent controls, that should be included in consolidated financial statement. Substance, not legal form. We don't worry about the legal form. We always worry in financial accounting, substance. Substance means the reality, not the legal form. That is the key factor in faithful representation. A faithful representation, to the maximum extent possible, complete, neutral, and free from error. So there are three sub-segments. It has to complete. The transaction has to be complete. Neutral. Neutral means prudence. If uncertainty is there, you take the prudence precautionary. When the uncertainty level is getting more and more, you are not getting the highest value. You try to get the value in a prudence manner. That is the neutral. Neutral means not in real meaning, not bias, but here you have to remember, neutral means you recognize, you concentrate, you put the attention onto the prudence. Prudence means prudence of course important when there is a uncertainty. When uncertainty is much more, you better to take the what do you call, the prudence story. For example, inventory. What do you buy inventory? Inventory means items which are waiting for sale. Always inventory is having the risk. Why? When the customer preference change, they won't ask. You can't sell. When minor change in the environment, there is a tendency of decrease in the demand. Also, if the environment favors, you may get the high demand. It's a different story. That's the meaning of uncertainty or the risk. So thereby, that is why we recommend, as per LKS 2, inventory should be valued at NRV whichever is lower under prudence. Why? Because risk is involved with regard to the uncertainty is involved with regard to the inventory sales conditions. Free from errors means, of course, without misstatement, without material misstatement, without error, you have to record the transaction. So then you have the faithful representation. Complete, neutral, free from error. Here the neutral means you have to remember, as I told you, the prudence, uncertainty story. Classic example is inventory, but there are other examples also. A faithful representation is affected by level of measurements uncertainty. That's what I, again, earlier case, neutral case. Faithful representation is affected by level of measurements uncertainty. If you are bringing uncertain values, if you are bringing more uncertain values, that means your financial statements are not faithful representation. But always when uncertainty is there, we will give two values. You take either whichever is low or whichever is high, depending on the case. There may different, in certain cases, different methods of calculating the figure. For example, fair value. There are different approaches of valuing fair value depending on the inputs levels. So I think you can remember. So always we are trying to, I think classic example for managing uncertainty is the fair value standards. So anyway, what I want to communicate to you is that the fundamental characteristics you have to ensure to make your information, financial information useful. Right. Then qualitative characteristic of useful financial information. Again, we continue the same qualitative characteristic previous slides. Then particular conceptual framework describes enhancing qualitative characteristic. I think you are familiar with this. Comparability, verifiability, and timeliness, understandability. Comparability means, your ability to compare with similar organizations, competitors, etc. And also comparability is, you may talk about among the items. Comparability. You should be in a position to compare your property, plant, equipment with what do you call current assets, or you should be in a position to compare the items within your financial statements. There are also comparabilities there. You can compare with previous year and all that and the similar organization, whatever, but comparability is within. The verifiability means someone can investigate. Classic example is auditing. Audit and assurance service is the classic example for verifiability. The timeliness, within a certain prescribed time, you have to provide the information. And understandability means to understand information which are in the financial information, but it has to be without business knowledge, without business environment. I don't think you can understand the financial statements. So thereby, when you say understandability, there are assumptions that the particular user is aware about general business environment and the management. Otherwise, he or she user cannot understand. So anyway, what is important is these four qualitative characteristics enhance the useful of information. It enhances the useful information. So thereby, what I feel is these qualitative characteristics are the enhancing. Those are nice to have characteristics. It's good, nice to have because it enhances the useful information. Nice to have. But remember, they cannot make non-useful information useful. They don't have any power to convert non-useful information to useful information. So thereby, if the useful informations you get, if there are relevance and faithful representation by mixing, by adding these you know this particular enhancing characteristics, I think you can really enhance the qualitative characteristics. Now you have to remember how you are going to incorporate. Now, for example, there are ways of incorporating these characteristics into the counting standards. How? That is a fundamental question. One example, when you look at the comparability, you may heard about disclosure. All disclosure strategies are addressing the comparability. By using, you can, those disclosure strategies are really helpful for us to, understand also. It increase the understandability. But what I want to communicate, most of the, I think all the disclosure strategies are really addressing the comparability. By adopting disclosure strategies, we increase the enhancing qualitative characteristic. And also in certain cases, giving different instructions, following different stages, using certain principles, verifiability really addresses. For example, if you know revenue recognitions, the latest standards, there are 5 model, I think. So that model is basically helping us to ensure the verifiability. So when you have those steps, those guidelines, those principles, auditors can follow. So thereby, there is a role for the auditor. So then only the verifiability is really ensured. Timeliness, of course, within 6-month period, at the end of the financial period and the 6-month story, you have to provide timeliness. And also you may talk about, you know that post balance sheet event standards. So that standard also again in a way addressing the timeliness, latest information. It will, all adjusting events are adjusted just to reflect the real situation, or the accurate, complete situation of the financial statement. Then of course understandability. Then the most important case is the cost constraint. Whatever that we talk, when we provide the information, we always consider the benefits and the cost. So always providing information, we should get more benefits than the cost. So thereby it's a constraint. The benefits of providing the information need to justify the cost of providing and using the information. That's the constraint. So what I want to discuss under this 2 slides, qualitative characteristics, we have discussed the fundamental qualitative characteristics, relevance, faithful representations. So I talk about different examples for relevance and faithful representation. And for example, another example is why we are going current replacement, or the fair value calculation, present value calculation, just to increase this relevance. Because under inflation situation, we don't account for the inflation. We don't account for the price change, but in a way, we by taking current cost into our measurements model instead of historical cost, What we do is we are trying to increase the relevance. But of course, when you try to increase the relevance, what happens is you are bringing the uncertainty because you have to do the estimates. So thereby, in financial accounting, what you have to do is the accounting standards, we are trying to balance this relevance and faithful representation. When you give more weightage to the relevance, you are losing the faithful representation. When you give more weightage to the faithful representation, you are losing the relevance. So thereby, we have to balance the both relevance and faithful representations. So when you look at the standards, all those standards really focusing to manage to balance these relevance and faithful representation. So wherever you are trying to increase the relevance, you are going for the estimates. When you try to increase the relevance, you are going for the estimates. When estimates involves, you have to disclose the fact. Particular accounting standards giving the guidelines what to disclose. I take one simple example, depreciation. By providing depreciation, your profit is more relevant under accrual. You focus on long-term accrual, not the short-term accrual. You provide the depreciation. When you depreciate your assets, you have to do the estimates. I think no need to explain. Two estimates are involved: residual value and the useful life of the assets. So two estimates are involved. So what the standard says, PPE, very simply, it says that you have to disclose the depreciation method, how it is used, amount of depreciation, useful life, if change is taken place, those matters. So a lot of things. If assets are revalued, same thing. Who did it? When did it? What was the method? You see, that's why I told you the relevance. When you are losing the relevance, there are strategies to overcome those weaknesses in the relevance. Just because of relevance, if something you sacrifice in faithful representation, standard propose different strategies. Classic example is disclosure strategies. Okay, shall we go to the third chapter? I have discussed two chapters. What is the first chapter? Objective of financial reporting. Second chapter is qualitative characteristics. Third one is financial statement and the reporting entity. Reporting entity is really is a new chapter for the latest conceptual framework. There's no big thing, but they have defined, they have identified what the reporting entity is. That's the only difference. An entity that is, if you have any questions, just put the message in the chat box. If you have really, yes, an entity that is required or chooses to prepare financial statements, that is a reporting entity. Reporting entity means any entity, an entity that is required by law, or chooses, we select, we chooses to prepare financial statements. You have to remember the word, an entity that is required, an entity that chooses when is required can separate that. An entity that is required, an entity that chooses to prepare financial statements, not necessarily a legal entity. What is the concept? Prudence, substance or form. Could be a portion of an entity or comprise more than one entity. For example, consolidated financial statements, etc. Now, the problem here is determining the appropriate boundary of reporting entity can be difficult if, for example, entity is not a legal entity. In such case, the boundary is determined by considering the information needs of the users of the entity's financial information. We have to raise whether our users, whether our capital providers, Do they need information of that entity, even though it is not a legal entity? If yes, we have to provide. Those users need information that is relevant and faithful representation what purports to represent. A reporting entity does not comprise an arbitrary or incomplete collection of assets, liability, equity, income, or expenses. You can't just add, arbitrary or incomplete collection of assets, and it has to be a entity which keeps records in a systematic way. So then only you can combine. Otherwise, what happens is you are adding a garbage. If you are reporting entity, suppose there is a particular entity which is not in a legal form, it's a project real. So you just want to add that entity to your financial statement. So if the entity is not having complete set of assets, if recording system is not maintained, of course, it's a garbage. So if you add that organization to your financial statements preparation as the reporting entity, so I think it's again you are just misleading, and just you are not ensuring the relevance and the faithful representation. Then the again reporting entity continue. Financial statements and reporting entity. There are basically three financial statements they have discussed. Consolidate financial statements. You know the meaning of consolidate. Consolidate financial statement means you get parent plus all subsidiaries together. Financial statements of parent plus subsidiaries. When you put together, you get the consolidated financial statement. But you can go to the particular standard and find out the definition. But basic idea is parent plus the subsidiaries, all these financial statements, if you put together, so it's consolidated. Unconsolidated financial statements means separate financial statement, parent and all the subsidiaries, separately, you call it unconsolidated financial statements. When you say combined financial statements, is basically you may combine your entity with someone, maybe what you call this joint ventures operations. In such situation, you may combine the financial statements. Right. Then chapter 3 is reporting entity. Chapter 4 is elements of financial statements. The elements. I think you are familiar with these elements. A present economic resource controlled by the entity as a result of past event. මෙතන පොඩි වාක්‍ය වෙනසක් වෙනෝනේ, full stop එකක් ඇවිල්ලා පටන් ගන්න ඕනේ. And economic resources is a right that has the really potential to produce economic benefits. So basically, very simple definition, not like earlier conceptual framework. A present economic resource. A present economic resource. It's in terms of present. Now you have it. That's the meaning of present economic resource. You have it now. Any economic resources which you are going to buy next hour is not the economic resource just now. Economic resource is present economic resource. The key word is controlled by the entity. What do you mean control? You have the power. You can do. You can modify. You can use. You can decide what to do. You do the maintenance. That's the meaning of control. You control. You are the person who are making decisions on that resource. Then you control. Controllability is with you. You get the cash flow and you maintain it. You incur the cash outflow. So the inflow, outflow, the difference is to yours. That is economic benefits. So thereby, economic resources is a right that has the potential to produce benefits. And also, you have to consider when you have an economic resource, it's a right to get the economic benefits. Now, suppose you buy a machine under lease, assets, under lease. So you have the, if you buy a machine, even though you don't have the ownership, you may control it. You may decide how to use. You may install it. You may decide when to use. and you may introduce different shift methods. So thereby you control the assets and also you have to maintain. So thereby you get the benefits and you incur certain expenses. So thereby the particular economic resource, if you want to say it's an economic resource, it has a right. It is a right that has the potential to produce economic benefits. Okay. The liability is again present obligation of the entity to transfer an economic resources as a result of past event. Here also past event, you have to remember both assets and liabilities in the balance sheet. You have to remember in the balance sheet, you capture the past data. What is incurred? Even though your balance sheet is historical, you have to get this point. Even though your balance sheet is historical, that means you build, you prepare and develop, you construct your balance sheet based on past data, past transaction. But you have to remember the balance sheet reflect the future of your business. That's called predictive value. So that is the power of this financial statement. If the financial position, balance sheet not giving any prediction about the future, I don't think it's useful. It's useless. So thereby, both assets and liabilities, past events. But remember, when you construct your balance sheet, it gives you the images or the predictions for the future. Anyway, present obligations of the entity transfer and economic resources. An obligation is a duty or responsibility that the entity has no practical ability to avoid. You don't have any practical ability to avoid, so it's a must. It's a must, no alternative. That means no alternative. Unit of accounts, the rights or obligations or group of rights and obligation to which recognition criteria, measurements, concepts are applied. So recently, the latest conceptual framework talks about the unit of account. That means the rights or obligations, right? Obligation or group of rights, obligation to which recognition criteria or measurement concepts are applied. So we are applying the measurement criteria not for a single, but for a unit of accounts. That's the idea. A unit of account is selected to provide relevant information about the assets or liability, any related income or expenses. For example, if you take PPE, you can categorize PPE as a unit of accounts. So for the PPE, we apply general common criteria, which is applicable to all PPE. Once you categorize, once you identify as unit of accounts, those recognition criteria or the measurement concepts are applied. For example, inventory, you may have different type of inventory, but unit of account is inventory. A unit of account is selected to provide faithful representation of substance of the transactions, other events from which the assets, liability, and any related income and expenses have arisen. We select a unit of accounts just to, all these separate items which is being disclosed on the face of the financial statements. On the face of the financial statements are basically unit of accounts. Yeah, unit of account is not a big thing. That means when you say unit of accounts, maybe a right or obligations or group of rights and obligation to which recognition criteria, measurement concepts are applied. For assets, certain assets, you apply the recognition criteria. Because when you say assets, it's a right. It's an economic resource. So that is a unit of account. Unit of account is selected to provide faithful representation. Basically, if you look at the balance sheet, all the line items which are coming under the balance sheets are unit of accounts, which recognize criteria, measurements, concepts are applied. So rather than we say an asset, you may talk about one particular machine, one computer. It's an asset. But when you say computers plus the other PPE, all are coming under unit of account. But if you have one particular investment in shares, fair value through investment, financial instrument, so thereby unit of account is only one right, a right. So if you have many investments, A company investment, B, C, and so you will have rights, group of accounts, unit of account. Okay, I think it's okay, right? The elements of financial statements, equity is, the residual. I am not going to discuss with you the residual. So thereby, what I want to communicate you based on this, this particular conceptual framework is focused on, we call it balance sheet approach. We know that first of all, we just first of all, when you are trying to construct a house, what you do? You do the plan. You do the what do you call the planning and So I think I explain it again. I will explain when time permits. A unit of account is not a big thing. When you say it's a collection of rights, obligations. So for those you apply measurements and recognition criteria. That's a simple thing. So the inventory is a unit of account. So the PPE unit of account, something like that. There you may be one or two or three more, five. One category, unit of analysis, something like that. Unit of analysis in research, you may talk about unit of analysis. Similar to here, we talk about unit of account. Okay. Equity is all line items you can consider as PPE, property, plant, equipment, intangibles, all these line items. Income increase. I think what I want to just communicate to you is that when you construct a house, I think foundation is the core starting point. You can talk about the planning, approval, and all that. That is for before construction. But when you start before starting the when you start the construction, you put a strong foundation. Likewise, what I want to communicate to you is that when you prepare the financial statement, we need the balance sheet. The balance sheet approach is our base theory. We first of all we construct the balance sheet. By constructing the balance sheet, you develop other statements. So thereby, most of the standards, if you look at the standards, most of the standards are related to assets or liabilities. Just look at most of the standards related to assets and liabilities. Very few standards related to expense and income. So thereby, we are trying to build up the balance sheet. So assets and liabilities. That's why public officers, parliament officers, MPs, and ministers are required to provide assets and liabilities. That is balance sheet. If you know the assets and liabilities, calculating equity, wealth is not a problem. That is the story, right? Anyway, then the income increases in assets or decrease in liabilities as a result of increased equity, other than those related to contribution from holders of equity claim. So this is very important. You have to remember, when you look at the asset income, you consider assets increase and decrease, but not the contribution from holders equity. Again, capital like income expenses also the opposite. I think no need of explaining. Decrease in assets, increase in liabilities as a result of decrease in equity. But remember, other than those related distribution to shareholders, for example, dividend. So thereby dividend is not an expense. Distributions are not expenses. Contributions are not income. So you have to remember, due to contributions, equity increase like income. Due to distributions, equity decrease. So thereby, we separate these two items because it has an impact on changes in equity, changes in equity, changes in financial position. Your contribution, your distributions will have an impact on changes in assets, changes in economic resources, changes in claims. So thereby we report those two items separately, separated from income and expenses. Right. Now another chapter, elements of financial statement is over. We define really recognitions and derecognition. Recognitions mean bringing items to the financial statement. Derecognition means removing items from the financial statement. Again, recognition කියලා කියන්නේ ledger එකට ගන්න එක. Derecognition කියලා කියන්නේ ledger එකෙන් අයින් කරනවා. Right. Recognitions. The process of capturing for inclusion in the statement of financial position or the statements of financial performance an item that meets the definition of an asset's liability, equity, income, or expense. So thereby, what is the recognition? Recognition is the process of inserting, capturing, any item in the financial statements if definitions met the what the definitions given in the conceptual framework. Okay. Then recognition is appropriate if it results in both relevant information about assets, liabilities, equity, income, and expenses, and a faithful representation of those items, because of the aim is to provide information that is useful to investors and lenders and others. Now, here what we are trying, this particular new standards, earlier we talked about recognition criteria in relation to assets, liabilities, equity, income, and expenses. Now, if you look at any property, plant, equipment, or whatever the standards, so you talk about the recognition criteria for assets, PP, recognition criteria for financial instrument, recognition criteria for intangible assets. So likewise, now here recognition criteria is not, we are talking in terms of particular assets. We talk about recognition criteria in relation to the relevance and faithful reputations based on unit of account, not the assets and liabilities. Okay. Recognition criteria, whether again this chapter continues, recognition of an item results is in relevant information be affected by, for example, low probability of a flow of economic benefits, existence uncertainty. Whether recognition of an item results in relevant information may be affected just because of two things: low probability, existence uncertainty. So just because of low probability or existing uncertainty, if you are not inserting, if you are not bringing those items into the financial statement, what happens is relevance lost. So thereby, even under low probability of flow of economic benefits and existence uncertainty, we will try to bring the uncertainty to calculation and bring the value. For example, when you calculate the NPV, what you do is by discounting, you are removing the uncertainty. By discounting the cash flow, by calculating NPV, what you are doing is you are removing the low probability. You are removing the uncertainty. So likewise, so those two are affected. Those two are really relevant for recognition criteria. Then faithful representations. Whether the recognition of item usefully in a faithful representation may be affected, for example, measurement uncertainty, recognition inconsistency, presentation and disclosure. So measurements uncertainty if there is, if uncertain inconsistency is there, presentation and disclosure may have an impact on faithful representation. So what I'm trying to tell you is that relevant will be affected if low probability of low economic benefits. Probability 100ක් තියෙන 120ක් තියෙන 140ක් තියෙන. Probable outcomes will have an impact on relevant and also existence of uncertainty. Future cash flows. For example, residual value, uncertainty. Any future receipts, uncertainty. Loan recovery, what you call non-performing loan, etc. Then measurements uncertainty, recognition inconsistency, and presentation and disclosure issues are really affected faithful representation. What I'm trying to tell you is that low probability and the existing uncertainty will have impact on relevant. Measurement uncertainty, uh, recognition inconsistency, presentation and disclose will have an impact on faithful representation because it will have a completeness, neutral, etc. Since we have the measurement uncertainty, how do you overcome? Cost or NRE, whichever is lower. Example, right? Okay. Cost constraints recognition decision just as it constrains other financial reporting decisions. So cost constraints recognition decisions, it's a constraint, cost factor. The meaning of cost and benefits story subjective. Okay, with this, shall we have a small break for my recording purposes? 5 minutes, 10 minutes break, then we'll start. I have to stop. Okay, stop.